Martha Washington came to Valley Forge on the 5th of February of 1778. She arrives here, according to General Nathanael Greene, in the evening. It takes her 10 days to travel here to Valley Forge from Mount Vernon. We know, too, that what the weather was like while she was traveling, which was not always so pleasant, because it started out snowy as she left from the Mount Vernon area. And then the winds picked up, and then it started to rain. It became very, very muddy. And when she finally arrived here on February the 5th, it was actually quite pleasant, and the weather was 35. But for a lot of the time, she was traveling through mud in her carriage with her slaves and servants with her, and this was a difficult journey. You know, it's very interesting to look at the primary documentation, which are the letters and journals and diaries of the time, to see what Martha did do at Valley Forge. And I think it's a little surprising, and it really puts a different complexion, I think, on the entire Valley Forge encampment. I think number one, of course, was to be with General Washington. They had a very nice relationship. If she was going to see him, she would have to come to him. We also know that when she comes here to Valley Forge, she probably takes over the housekeeping duties, which was very much what she was used to, of course, at Mount Vernon. We also know that she entertained. We know that Elizabeth Drinker came to Valley Forge. She came on the 6th of April. She came with several of her friends. So we know that Mrs. Washington entertained and talked to visitors when they came to Valley Forge, when General Washington was not able to do that. We also know, and this I think is when it starts to get very interesting, she served elegant dinners here at Valley Forge. Now, most people would never put the word elegant together with the word Valley Forge. This is probably where Martha Washington dined for a while, until the log hut built for dining, which she said made our conditions much more tolerable than they were at first, that's a quote from her, was built right back near the kitchen. So you can imagine Martha Washington here with some of the officers, General Washington, perhaps some of the people from the area who might have been passing through, eating dinner here, which was served in the afternoon, maybe 2 or 3 o'clock. The food, by the way, that they ate here was really very different from what the soldiers were eating. We know, for example, that there were 2,000 eggs brought into Valley Forge that they ate during the encampment period, a 6-month period, of course, for the Valley Forge encampment. We know that they were brought in 750 pounds of butter, and we know that at least 1,600 pounds of veal were brought into camp. These are some of the things that Martha Washington would be eating here as she was dining with people. Conversation's kind of interesting to think about. What would Martha Washington and the other people been talking about? We don't really know, of course, but when Elizabeth Drinker came from Philadelphia, very likely the conversation at that point would have been, what were conditions like in Philadelphia? The British, of course, were in Philadelphia. General Washington would have been very interested to think about what conditions were at that time. And Martha would have been part of that conversation and listening to what was happening, talking to Philadelphia, talking to ladies from Philadelphia, which we very much would have enjoyed. We know, too, that Martha Washington went to several worship services here at camp. We know that on May the 6th, there's a wonderful celebration called the Feu de Joie, celebrating the French Alliance. Martha Washington is there and receives in the center of a large tent, and where thousands of people, officers, the wives, go through, at least General DeKalb says thousands of them, are entertained and serve refreshments with Martha Washington and General George Washington. So those are some of the things that Martha is doing here at Valley Forge.